In this video, I will take you from zero to hero and show you how and why to do fractals in Guild Wars 2. Now, what are fractals? Fractals are your 5-man endgame content in Guild Wars 2. There are 4 tiers of fractals to do, and as a new player, you'll have access to tier 1 immediately, and you will have to work your way up towards tier 2. Now, when you start fractals, there's not really much structure to it. It's just 5 players doing the content, but as you go further in, it kind of transitions into 2 supports and 3 DPS mostly going at it. Now, why should you do fractals? Well, firstly, the rewards are insane. It is the highest liquid gold that you can get in Guild Wars 2, meaning that if you can get up to tier 4 fractals for about 30 to 45 minutes of gameplay, you're going to get an extreme amount of liquid gold, as well as also resources, crafting materials, ascended crafting materials, ascended gear drops, rings, trinkets, jewelry, weapons, everything, you name it. Fractals has it. It's also a source of mystic clovers, mystic coins, and also a legendary backpack achievement in there. These rewards can be amplified via your masteries, your fractal masteries, as well as some components bought in the fractals themselves. Now, this sounds amazing, so how do we get started? Well, as soon as you hit level 80, you're ready to start fractals. You don't need specific gear initially, you don't need to have any specific training. You can hop straight into tier 1 fractals, and I highly recommend doing this because there are those small chances for ascended gear drops, and that can be an incredible help towards your account in the beginning and also even late game. If you want to alter some of the stats to fit some of your other builds, you can do that. So once you've hit level 80, make your way down to Lion's Arch to the south to the Fort Mariner waypoint, and there you will see this icon, Dungeon Fractal of the Mists. There will be a large red portal in front of you, and this is how you start fractals. You can do it that way if you initially launch them. However, if you want to join a fractal already forming, if you push your Y key to open your LFG, you can go to looking for group and Fractal of the Mists. Now, initially, you'll only be able to see 1 to 25, but as you go further into fractals, you'll unlock the other tiers. Once you click there, you can see groups forming. Now, you can obviously just join any group unless they specifically say they're asking for something. Now, there are 2 ways to actually go inside Fractal of the Mist. Either you can join a group and then a little pop-up will appear to say enter the Fractal of the Mists. Or if you want to start the group yourself, you simply walk up to the Fractal of the Mist portal and you can select whatever fractal you want to go in on. Now, that doesn't mean that if I select, say, Nightmare and enter on that we will go straight into Nightmare. You can change this once you're inside Fractal of the Mists. Now, no matter how you go, you'll appear inside Fractal of the Mist. And now there are a few things you do before your first run. Firstly, you might want to go up towards the scale setting sequencer and select the fractal that you want to go in on. Then once you have done that, there is a nifty little golem down here that you can speak to. You can reinforce your armor, or you can maybe sell some things from your bag. Make sure that you have a lot of slots open, as you do get quite a lot of rewards from fractals. Then once you and your group are ready, you go to the portal and you click ready. It will do a ready check for the entire group, and when everybody is ready, you will enter your first fractal. And I highly recommend just going in before doing anything else. Do your first fractal and have fun. And now that you've done your first fractal and you're a legend for doing it, you'll notice a few things. You'll notice a little bouncing chest, and this will give you your fractal chests. Now, these scale to the amount of tiers you do. If you do tier 1, you will get 1 chest. If you do tier 2, you'll get the tier 2 and the tier 1 chest. And obviously, if you do 3 and 4, you'll get the tier that you do and the previous tiers, meaning that if you can get to tier 4 fractals, you'll get a ton of rewards, making it highly valuable and lucrative to do. Then if you open your chest, you'll notice a few things. You would have got a few bags based on the fractal that you did. You'll also, if you have the protocol, like the Magic's Trophies protocol, you'll also notice that you've got quite a lot of these Magic Trophy bags. I highly recommend getting this on the tune that you do fractals on, as this is just so much good rewards. Then obviously you'll have the initiatives chests, or whatever chests you get from doing your fractals. You can open those and you'll get a few nice things like stabilizer matrices, which are really nice for ascended and legendary crafting. So very, very valuable stuff. Now, a few things that you'll notice as well is you'll get these +1 agony infusions, and these will become highly valuable later, as these will allow you to do harder and tougher fractals. So basically going into tier 2, you will need to get a little bit more agony resistance, and then in tier 3 you'll need more, and in tier 4 you'll need pretty much a minimum of 150 to be able to do all the fractals. Then you will notice maybe some other things. Now you might notice ascended rings. Now they might have 1 slot, or they might be infused and have 2 slots. This is incredibly important, as these slots allow us to slot agony infusion in it, allowing us to do tougher fractals and therefore get more rewards. So we want to keep them, even if there are not stats that you like if you're playing say Reaper and you're like, I want Berserkers, power, ferocity, precision, that's it. But having these, especially if there are 2 slots, keep them for now, put agony infusions in them, and you can always take them out later and put them in the gear that you keep eventually. Because eventually an infused Berserker ring will drop for you and you will be flipping grateful. So keeping these highly valuable. And also what we like to do is eventually is we deconstruct these with salvage kits to get more matrices, and these sell for quite a lot. Now before we get into further rewards, I want you to notice that you have a Fractal Attunement Mastery. Remember I mentioned you can get extra rewards. So all of these will either help you get more agony resistance or extra rewards. But the very, very important one is this recursive resourcing, which allows you to get more rewards from the final chest and fractal encryptions. And this is where these resources come in. You will have fractal encryption boxes. I highly recommend holding onto these boxes until you have this mastery, so that when you open it, you're getting as much reward as possible. Then you might maybe have a handful of fractal relics. These are great because they just give you some fractal relics, which are incredibly good to have. And then you will notice fractal encryption keys. Now these keys open these boxes. So once you have got this mastery here, then what I highly recommend you do is consume all of these. Now they are cracked fractal encryptions, which means they're open and you can use them and they will drop items. Now you can see that these items are junk items and they sell for like a gold, 60 silver, blah blah blah. Now this is where the incredible high liquid value of fractals is, because basically what you do is you just sell all your junk items and you get in lots of gold. Now if you do tier 4 and you're opening a lot more chests and you're selling it, you're getting a lot of gold per day for like 30 to 40 minutes worth of work. Now let's have a look at all the other things inside the Fractal of the Mist. There is a little teleporter down to the side here that you can take to go to almost the shop area. Now the first NPC right here is just a general merchant who will have your salvage kits, things like this. Then as you go down to the left here, your first NPC on the far left will be your Agony Infusion NPC. So what this will do is take all those little +1s that you've gotten in your runs and help you tier them up to stronger Agony Infusions, which means that instead of putting a +1, say, in those rings that you've gotten to drop, you can maybe put something higher like a +9. Now let's take a few seconds to talk about what plus Agony Infusion you should get. First of all, you should try and get a few, just regardless of how good they are, to allow you to do the different tiers of fractals that you want to do. But in the end, most players tend to either go for the +9s or they go for as high as humanly possible to like +18, +20, whatever, depending on how easy they want to make fractals when they get to tier 4s. As a new player, your goal should probably be to get to +9 infusions. What this means is that you will be able to cap all of your infusion that you need to do tier 4 with 17 slots. Technically, you can have 18 slots on all of your gear. So if you are well geared, you will get to the point where you will have an Agony Infusion slot in every gear, which only starts from Ascended Armor and obviously Legendary. You'll have 2 in a two-handed weapon, 1 in one-handed weapons. So those basically are 8 slots. Then you'll have 2 in your back piece, and this is where it gets quite tricky because to put a second slot in a back piece is highly expensive. So this is the slot you can get last. Because it takes so much globs of ectoplasm and a few other things to put the slot in the back piece, you do not actually need this to do your tier 4 fractal, but eventually, like I said, it's always great to be above 150 agony resistance, as you get a lot of gains from this. Then you will have 1 in each of your accessories and 3 in your rings. Now, like I said before, you might have the chance where a 2-slotted ring drops. To add 1 slot to a ring is very easy. This is called a toning ring. So adding 1 slot to a ring is very cheap and very nice to do. Adding 2 slots to a ring, i.e. making a ring from a 1 slotter to a 3 slotter, is actually very expensive. So I highly recommend waiting for a 2 slot ring to drop and just turning it into a 3 slot ring. Now if you do the math, if you have 18 slots with +9s, you will get to 162 agony resistance, and this is over what's required. That means that you don't actually need that final slot. You can just go for 17 slots, and when you've got yourself your legendary back piece, then you can always throw in an agony infusion in there. So in summary, as a new player, I would aim for the +9s, and if you want to become a tryhard and go for your T4 dailies and CMs and everything, you can always look at your +11s and then go up even higher to 13, 14, whatever, depending on how tryhard you want to be in the game. But +9s are beautiful, and the reason also is because of this little tab here, the Attribution Infusion Creation. This allows you to turn your +9s into +9 agony resistant +5 stats. And this is a really good thing to aim for, because this transitions really well for Fractals, for Radiant, and for Open World, because you're getting the extra +5 stats that a lot of raiders and open world people do enjoy. Now quickly, I have opened the trading post and I've sorted by price, by infusions, and then you can start to see that you can also buy +5 stats and +9 agony resistance out of the trading post. This could be quite a nice way if you do have a bit of spare gold to try get a few more agony infusions, because obviously these integrated fractal matrices are quite hard and expensive to make. Then unlock through your masteries, you get the mastery items tab. The agonized essence allows you, with a few other ingredients, to put an extra slot in a ring. Now this is a very cheap item to do, and I'll put the recipe up on screen now. I highly recommend doing this. Even if you're going to salvage the ring for resources, I would add a slot and then salvage the ring, because you get an extra roll per a slot in a ring, meaning that you can turn rings into high amount of profit. Then the other item here, an infusion extraction. This allows you to pull all infusions out of an item so that you can use it in another one. If you want to swap, say you don't want to play this character and you want to play a different character in Fractals, this allows you to pull out all your infusion slots. Then these ascended items below are when you want to put a second slot in a ring, i.e. you've put the first slot with the agonized essence, very cheap and good to do, but you want to put a third slot. This is how you'll do it. Very, very expensive. I highly recommend rather farming these out of doing your Fractals daily than paying this amount of gold and also fractal relics for it. And now that we're done with that vendor, let's move over to this vendor. This vendor over here is a very nice vendor. He gives you a lot of the items you will need for your legendary backpack deed. He's also got little bags that you can buy for fractal relics. He sells mystic clovers, and he also has a few other items, ascended salvage tools, but very importantly, these deeply discounted fractal encryption keys. What these mean is that for once a day, you can buy 30 keys, 6 gold, and 30 fractal relics, which is fairly cheap for the amount of gold that you will get out of using these, because once you do tier 4 fractals, you're going to have a lot more chests than keys. So you'll need to start doing this to be able to open all those chests. So buying this once a day is great. You buy 30 keys. Never buy it a second time, because the price starts to go up and up and up. And I would never use any of these items to buy keys, because that just seems like a massive waste. Then once we're done there, we go over to this NPC over here, and they have got items for pristine relics. Now, I would highly recommend not doing this, because a lot of these things are not worth it. They're all one-slotted rings and accessories, things like that. And it's a massive waste. You can do this, however, if it is your first character and you do want to be a bit more try-hard, but it is a bit of a waste of pristine relics, as we can turn pristine into fractal relics. Then in the second time, they have these ascended stat selectable jewelry pieces. These are incredibly good, and some of them are used for legendary items. They are the same as World vs. World, so if you do want to save your pristine fractal relics, you could farm these rather in World vs. World and keep your fractal relics here, or vice versa if you want to keep your World vs. World currency. Then once we're done here, you have a laurel merchant. A laurel merchant sells things for laurels. I would highly recommend not doing that, as laurels are very worth it for other things, but you know, if you really wanted to, you could buy some things here. Then the NPC here has got a lot of interesting things as well, a couple of crafted things through doing certain fractals, but then also they've got infinite tonics, which are incredibly good, especially if you're going to do fractals daily and you're going to go for fractal savant or god or something like that. Very important. And then they have these items that you can craft. and these are stat selectable, which is very good, but it is a very high fractal relic cost, so I'd rather recommend crafting an item and rather changing the stats in the Mystic Forge than doing it this way. Then once we're done there, we head over to the augmentation NPC. This NPC allows you to augment your account, i.e. you get extra rewards for doing fractals, more karma, more chest drops, more DPS, things like that. And this is also how you increase your titles. So you can go from a fractal savant to a prodigy to eventually being a fractal god, meaning that you'll get a lot more rewards out of doing fractals, and you will also get certain things making fractals slightly easier, like more agony resistance, damage, things like this. Then once done there, you've also got your bank, so you have access to all of your bank items, you have access to the trading post if you want to pick up things before fractals like food and utilities, and you will have this NPC here which will sell fractal potions. Now this discounted Tears of Alba is incredibly good. It will give you extra agony resistance and even more based on your masteries. Now this is a good way when you start in fractals to do fractals that are out of your reach, fractals where you need more agony resistance, or if it's your first time doing things like tier 4s and CMs and you want a little bit of extra protection, having this means that you get more agony resistance, and it's very strong to do in the beginning. And then afterwards you'll notice there are fractal potions. I haven't really gone into fractal potions, but I would highly recommend when you start tier 3 fractals and it's pug groups, maybe using the 1 charge potions, and then when you get to tier 4, your large potions are pretty much a non-negotiable because they are 5 charges on each potion, meaning that you get a lot of utility out of them. Because of the damage and the mechanics in tier 4 and challenge modes, these are a necessity. You could use these in tier 3 if you're in a really bad group and you just want to get the content done, but it's kind of highly unnecessary. In tier 1 and 2, you won't really bother with potions as you won't need them. Now let's take a second to talk about potions. You'll notice there are 3 potions. The offensive potion gives you 3% extra outgoing damage per charge, and these are 5 charges, so you'll get 15% outgoing damage. Then the mobility will allow you to move per charge, and the defense will reduce incoming damage per charge. But if you read the white text, you'll notice something else. It converts a portion of your agony resistance into another stat. So in the case of offense, you'll get more vitality. In mobility, you will get concentration, and defense, you will get toughness. This allows you to basically be more survivable as a person, and also you'll have higher concentration. That means that your boon uptime will be a lot better. Because you're a 5-man group and not a raid group, a lot of times you might struggle because of the way fractals work, trying to deal with mechanics, the movement, the quick fights, everything. You might struggle to keep perfect boon uptime, and these allow you to be survivable and keep up more boon uptime, meaning that you'll have better lack uptime, better quick uptime, might, protection, everything, because you really do need those in fractals. And this is why going over the minimum 150 agony resistance for doing your hardest T4 is really good. That's why if you're in most CM groups and stuff, you'll see the guys maybe at 170, 180, 200 agony resistance, because they're relying on a lot of these extra stats from these potions. When you go into higher tiers, bosses use new moves, there's more mechanics, there's more instabilities to deal with, and even though I don't necessarily think fractals are hard, it's kind of like learning a dance. Once you know it, you know it. You're not going to forget it. There's nothing new that's going to be thrown at you. But it's whether you feel comfortable. I did really take my time. I spent quite a long time on tier 2, and on tier 3, I almost was too scared to go into tier 4 for a very long time. I started meeting a lot of players. I've gone through a lot of training. The guys were trying to teach me all of the mechanics. And then eventually moved into tier 4 and I was like, wow, it's actually a lot easier in tier 4 because the players have been there for so long. They're so much cleaner on their technique, and therefore the pugging experience is really good in Guild Wars 2. I have to admit, I think out of probably about 50 fractal runs, you might have one that's a little bit not great, and that to me is incredibly high success rate. I feel like the pug standard on Guild Wars 2 is very good. Even for challenge modes, I barely don't think I've ever failed a challenge mode in a pug group, which is great unless it's obviously a group that's going for a title or something like that. But yeah, fractals incredibly good. Let's summarize it quick. The reasons to do fractals is incredible amount of gold, crafting materials, ascendeds, legendary items, things like that. That is just going to make your account great. You're going to have lots of fun doing 5-man content. It's going to be different every single day, and yeah, just incredible friendships that you can make in Fractals. About 30 to 40 minutes, maybe an hour in a below average group if you're very unlucky, and you've got so much reward for such a little time. Fractals is definitely something you can do daily to try and just pump up your account value and have fun. And yeah, I highly recommend it for newer players. Don't wait until you're fully ascended to go into tier 1s. As soon as you hit level 80, go in, play it. And as you play it, you'll obviously see what works and what doesn't work, what the meta tends towards and what you enjoy playing. Anyway, I hope this video has helped you. If it has, please give it a like, a subscribe, things like that really helps the channel grow. And if you didn't, I thank you so much for watching anyway, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.